Okay, so we've got Peter Sagan, Caleb Ewan. This is the finish line there in the race here in Adelaide last night. That's a big gap. Peter definitely got burnt by Caleb there. Caleb Ewan, 21-year-old, just beat Pete there in that sprint. So that's a pretty big deal and quite a big win for Caleb there. We're going to show a bit of footage here. We've got Scorpion, but why did Pete lose? Peter can produce more power. Caleb doesn't produce that much power, but Caleb was on a lighter bike. He didn't have disc brakes on his bike. Did the disc brakes hold Peter Sagan back? This is going to open up a discussion now. No other channel is going to talk about this. This is the only video on YouTube where we're talking about disc brakes or anything. I don't have any industry bias here. I'm free to share my opinion. I don't have any sponsors that will get crazy or whatever. So I can honestly say, for me, owning disc brake bikes, I would say you do have a disadvantage if you are a sprinter looking for every single second. Because that was, are the disc brakes rubbing? Are the rotors rubbing on the calipers, slowing down Peter? Because, Caleb Ewan doesn't produce that much power compared to Peter Sagan. So, and even Alex Edmondson was just not too far off, a couple of bike lengths back. So he was up there as well. He was also on a non-disc bike. But, so Peter Sagan on an alloy bike, which won't really make much difference. But for me, the disc brake bikes, they don't feel as fast, as hyper aggressive as a caliper brake bike. Now, I know people that they've bought a $15,000 Venge disc, and they're like, "No, this video is bullshit, Harley." I've ridden the Venges, I've ridden all the bling. I've got 25 bikes myself, and I have disc brake bikes, and I love disc brake bikes for some applications. But if I was a professional cyclist going for every single second in a sprint, personally, I wouldn't run disc. If I was a climber, I wouldn't run disc. If I was a cyclocross racer, I would run disc. If I was a professional rider, I probably would use disc brakes because it gives me some, a bit more confidence in the downhills. So it depends. But if I was, a gun sprinter, I wouldn't use disc because you're a gun sprinter because you've got skill. So I would say Pete lost that race because he doesn't have a choice with his gear. He has to ride what Specialized say. That's just the deal. He has to ride a certain frame, a certain wheel, a certain tire, a certain fork, everything. They dictate. If you're a sponsored rider, they say, you ride this. You work for us now. We're your daddy. We're your mummy. We do this, and this is what you have to do. So as a professional, then you are at the whim of your sponsors. Now, someone like Team Sky, Pinarello, they're not really having to try and create some new product out there that much. So they're just running the caliper brakes. Same with Ridley bikes. They're just running the rim brake bikes. So, but Specialized, I love Specialized product. I've been using Specialized stuff for 20 years. So I'm definitely not anti-Specialized. But as a professional rider, you don't really have much of a choice, do you? Even Peter Sagan, who's like an icon for the industry. This whole disc brake stuff's going on because Peter Sagan is riding disc brake. And everyone's like, oh, Pete's riding it. I want to ride it. But he doesn't have a choice. If Pete said, hey, look, I want to ride caliper brakes, there's no choice there. Pete has to ride disc. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how it is. So I would say that Pete lost that sprint last night. Had he been on his normal bike, his tarmac or something like that, he would have won it. But they gave him a brand new bike. He hasn't been training on it. So, when you're going for every single second or half second or quarter of a second, being on the bike you normally train on is a big advantage. So Caleb Ewan is on his Ridley bike, and he's just really, really used to it. So it does go to show how much talent Peter Sagan does have, is they give him a bike he's hardly ever ridden before. Hasn't been riding it lately because I've been riding in Adelaide and he's been riding his Venge. So they give him a new bike to ride the day before. And so you're not really adjusted to it that much. The angles and that would be similar, but it's still, bike to bike, there's that variation there. So I would say Peter Sagan lost the race because of disc brakes, and because he's riding a bike he's not used to. So that's my comments and criticisms there. And that just goes to show, just because it's marketed as a great product, it doesn't necessarily mean it is a great product. So we don't have much, especially in YouTube. It's all about who can get the reviews and the brown nosing of industry and stuff like that. So you come to my channel, I'm going to give you the fucking truth. I'm going to give you the unsponsored truth. That if I buy a bike, if it's a Trek or a Canada or a Specialized or a Giant and it's legit, I'll share my experiences. If it's like my Specialized Epic recently. The shock, the brand shock is just terrible. I'm on shock number 3, and I've ridden the bike twice off road. You know, it's meant to be a World Cup winning bike, and I've gone through 3 shocks already, and I'm not even an aggressive downhill rider. You know, I'm pretty timid on the downhill. So if I've gone through 3 shocks, it's just a shit design. If I can destroy 3 shocks, you know, there's something wrong with the design there. So it might be marketed as the fastest bike or whatever, but that's just marketing. So marketing, for those who don't know, marketing isn't real life. You know, it may appear to be real life for some people, but it ain't. Now we have the 50 tooth on the SRAM. You know, and I said a few years ago, 50 tooth will become the norm. But for SRAM to sell that to people, they have to put a 10 cog on there to make it, you know, bigger than a 5311. Because the average weekend warrior who's buying this product go, oh, I can't do a 50. Oh, you know, it'll erode my masculinity. And that's just how some people are. So if the marketing angle is, oh, it's actually bigger gear than a 5311 or a 5411, then the average weekend warrior who could never ever spin out a 5311 on the flat anyway can go, oh yeah, okay, I got a 5011, so okay, I can breathe, and it's okay. Like, I was panicking now, I might have to ride a 50. My mates would give me crap that I'm riding a 50 tooth, but now it's got a 10 cog. I can say, hey guys, it's bigger than a 5311. Just, you know, I'm still a man. I'm still got my testes. I'm still a man. I've got a gear bigger than a 5311, even though I never will need it. You know, look up the speed you can do of a 5011. It's like 83 km an hour on the flat at 130 cadence. Do you know anybody who can sprint 83 km an hour on the flat? Yeah, unless they're behind a truck. Exactly. So it's just like cars. You know, cars advertise for 300 km an hour, but the road limit's 100 km an hour. So it's just where we live in. That's marketing. That's my opinion. That's the deal. That's my opinion. I feel Peter Sagan lost the first race of the year because he was on a bike he wasn't used to, and 2, it had heavy sluggish disc wheels on there. If he had a super light bike like a tarmac, I feel he would have beat Caleb Ewan. If he had a bike like Caleb Ewan had, super lightweight carbon, he would have won. I feel he lost because of he was forced to ride a bike he wasn't used to, and a bike with heavy, sluggish wheels. Disc brakes feel sluggish. Ride a disc brake bike, you know, a top-of-the-line Trekkimondo or a giant TCR or a specialized tarmac. Ride the disc version, ride the caliper version, and you tell me, honestly, if the disc brake one feels zippy. It doesn't. Everybody I've talked to, you know, it manages, people, mechanics, everyone agrees the disc brake one feels slow and sluggish compared to non-disc. It's just how it is. Doesn't mean you can't be super fast and beat your mates. I'm just saying, if you want the ultimate fastest bike in a sprint or an uphill, it's got to be non-disc.